This is way too late to be done, and I fully understand it, but I'm thrilled that here in Season 3, we finally get to pay tribute to the master. Breaking down the best 4 songs. This is Mount Rockmore.
Why don't you try getting jacked off under the table in front of the whole damn family and have some real problems? Jackass.
Welcome, 6-string slingers and Marshall stacking madmen. I am Bauer, lighting up the fretboards in tribute to a man, a myth, a legend who passed away way too soon. On our first ever Axeman Tribute, Mount Rockmore, I'm your host for this climb as we finger tap our way to the 4 career-defining solos for one guitar player who influenced me to keep practicing guitar in a very futile hope that I may one day sound like him. A day that never came, by the way, because it was a feat that was never possible. So today we pay a long overdue tribute to the one and only EDDIE VAN HALEN. The Super Bowl has ended, and while we at Mount Rockmore hope you got a little time to reflect on perhaps the greatest guitarist a fretboard has ever seen, I personally invite you to check out our other Mount Rockmore ventures at our new home for this and other podcasts for real people, realguyradio.com. We opened up Season 3 talking wild animals in hotel rooms and banning album covers in a fitting tribute to Guns N' Roses. Now, if you want to make listening to this podcast easier on yourself and get an awesome soundtrack to your weekend grilling, if you kindly ask Alexa to play Mount Rockmore on TuneIn, and you know what? She'll happily play us for you. And then you can return the favor by getting the red, white, and black duct tape out to make her an official Franken-Lexa. First, it's hard to imagine what rock and roll would sound like without an EDDIE Van Halen. Like Jimi Hendrix, Jimmy Page, or maybe Eric Clapton before him, he single-handedly, or perhaps in his case, double-handedly, changed the vocabulary of guitar for a generation. His pyrotechnic finger tapping, elastic dive bombs, and bursts of melody redefined the guitar solo and inspired legions of copycats in the process. But no matter what Eddie was playing, he did it with heart. To honor the late guitar hero who died at the age of 65, we've decided today to try and pick his 4 most memorable solos. From unforgettable licks to genuine, how the fuck did he do that head scratchers, that show off his brilliance for an EDDIE Van Halen, Mount Rockmore, and axemanship. Beginning with Van Halen's 1978 debut, he virtually single-handedly reinvented the entire rock guitar lexicon, his tone, his technique, his sheer musicality. The Axeman was most celebrated for his hard rock influence, especially that two-handed approach to finger tapping, a technique in which Eddie used the fingers of his right hand to fret notes on the neck of the guitar, which followed him to phrase passages very rapidly without the limitations of a pick. Now, I'm fully aware that I may not be able to truly satisfy every guitar nut who meticulously perfected playing Eruption or knows the intricacies and physics behind the Floyd Rose. So let's just put aside our differences and recognize simple fretboard greatness for what it is. 3 little letters alone. E.V.H. There is no debate. If you've got those, you deserve a play-in. Now, the 4th single from Van Halen's debut and a fan favorite to this day, Ain't Talkin' About Love, was originally written as a tossed-off parody of the punk movement. Eddie revealed to Guitar World, "It's a stupid thing to us, just 2 chords." In keeping with the song's slash and burn aesthetic, however, Van Halen laid off the pyrotechnics in the song's solo, delivering instead a ferocious, melodic drone, doubled with an electric sitar for added buzz that would seem perfectly at home on a Sex Pistols or Buzzcocks album. Which could be the reason why Green Day's Billy Joe Armstrong has often said its solo was the first one he ever learned to play. So now, for the first ever Axeman Tribute Mount Rockmore, we bring you the play-in for EDDIE Van Halen with Ain't Talkin' About Love.
the streets again. Oh yeah, you think you're really cooking, baby? You better find yourself a friend. My friend, it's talking about love. My love is rotten to the core. And it's talking about love. Just like I've told you before. Before. I stood and looked down. You know I lost a lot of friends there, baby. I got no time to mess around. So if you want it, got to bleed, boy, baby. Yeah, got to bleed, baby. You got to bleed, baby. Got to bleed, baby. Keep talking about love. The love is running to the core. Keep talking about love. Just like I told you before. Keep talking about love. Don't wanna talk about love. Don't need to talk about love. Ain't gonna talk about love. You know.
He would eventually settle on the guitar, but Eddie Van Halen began his musical journey as an aspiring concert pianist. He would put those classical chops to good use while composing Van Halen 2's Spanish Fly, a minute-long solo on nylon string guitar that features a combination of the guitarist's trademark two-handed tapping and lightning-fast flamenco-esque note flurries. An inspired piece of music, Spanish Fly was also a warning shot fired to remind the legions of hard rock guitarists who were beginning to imitate his playing style that he could transcend the genre at will. Even future Ozzy Osbourne guitarist Zakk Wylde, for one, got the message. He said, "The first time I heard Spanish Fly, I remember thinking, how can anybody get that fucking good?" He says in Annabelle Sanchez's Van Halen 101, he said, "It was beyond insane." So, what better way to intro our first song on the Mount Rockmore of Eddie Van Halen solos? A song that translated the guitarist's signature finger tapping style to an acoustic, Spanish Fly from Van Halen 2. All right, now that might make you think this Mount Rockmore is going to be a shorter version of Mount Rockmore. I promise you, we're going to get into whole songs with Van Halen solos here, but that song performed in a single, uninterrupted take on a nylon string acoustic guitar. a feat made much more difficult by the fact that an acoustic guitar lacks the inherent sustain of an electric guitar. The song's main riff was played on a mini Les Paul-style guitar created for him by Nashville luthier David Pachold. That alone makes it one of the top 10 Eddie Van Halen guitar solos. On the way, solos from a great to some of those who he thought were the greats, and the solo Ed always tried to keep hidden. All on the way, here on Mount Rockmore.
Let's make a call to the bullpen. This is your comic reliever, Whitney Cummings.
Women get obsessed with romance. I think it also comes from the nicknames we get growing up. With my dad growing up called me Princess, right? Princess. He drilled into my head as a kid that I'm a freaking princess, and then I grew up and I got into the real world and I realized that no one else was on board with the whole princess thing, right? Princesses don't lose their virginity at Lollapalooza. That's just not... I think we need to start calling kids things to prepare them for real life. You know, get in the car, rehab, let's go. Women get called things that make them obsessed with romance. Guys get called things that make them obsessed with sports, right? You guys get called like champ. Ugh. Sport. You guys are so obsessed with sports that you guys will wear jerseys for teams that you're not even on. But you think you're on the team? You'll be like, yeah, last night I guess we just didn't score enough. Last night I guess we just didn't play enough defense. We? The Redskins don't need you. Okay, that's like me watching Grey's Anatomy in scrubs. The show is over, being like, oh God, we just could not save that guy. I don't know.
Some comic relief. The Bauer Show.
Breaking down the best 4 songs. This is Mount Rockmore.
You shut your mouth when you're talking to me.
Welcome back to the Mount Rockmore podcast. If what we're doing here makes you want to change the Ernie balls out on your Kramer guitar, then please check out our website. The new home for Mount Rockmore is realguyradio.com. And follow us on Twitter at Mount Rockmore, MTROCKMORE. Please give our podcast a rating, give us a 5-star review, 1 for each of Eddie's hammering fingers. I'm Bauer, and Eddie Van Halen passed away in October 2020. We had just completed recording season 2 of Mount Rockmore. We were on a much-needed break, and I debated whether or not to come back just to pay tribute to the life and musical legend of guitar genius Eddie Van Halen. I wanted to, but I was also emotionally devastated. Thinking about a world without Eddie Van Halen really didn't appeal to me at the time. Needless to say, I knew this day was going to come, and I wanted to be in the right frame of mind for it. I didn't always agree with Ed. Some years ago, when I was starting my radio career off in Chico, California, I got pretty pissed off at Eddie Van Halen. It was right after Sammy Hagar left and they brought in Gary Cherone to be the lead vocalist for Van Halen. At one point in time, Eddie seemed to send out a message to fans saying that he wasn't playing music for the fans anymore. This was all about him. This was the music that he wanted to play and that he loved. And I thought, what a slap in the face to so many Van Halen fans to say that this music wasn't for them anymore. And I even did something horrible that I now beyond regret. At that time, working on the radio station, I got pretty pissed off at Ed. And I got caught for this as well. I talked about how, Ed to slap the face of us Van Halen fans like that, I hoped that he would get cancer. I actually said that. I hoped that Eddie Van Halen would get cancer. I hoped that he would get cancer on the tip of his penis so that every time he walked around, he would feel that and it would be pain to think of what he's causing Van Halen fans. I got called out on that. There were complaints at the radio station. I had a listener complain via fax to my general manager over what I said. And there were lots of times that I didn't think Ed was right in his judgment, but I never disrespected his ability as a guitar player. So today, while I sit here choked up thinking about how stupid I was to wish that kind of hateful shit on Eddie Van Halen, we pay fitting tribute to the axemanship of the one and only E.V.H. trying to limit ourselves to his 4 greatest, most important guitar solos ever recorded. Eddie Van Halen's next solo is appropriately revved up, featuring a Chuck Berry-inspired double stop that accelerates into a series of high-test tapping licks. And Eddie didn't stop there. Concerned that his usual whammy bar-powered engine growls wouldn't adequately punctuate the song's breakdown, Eddie Van Halen backed his 1972 Lamborghini, which he once referred to in Auto Week as a go-kart with 12-cylinder carbs, up to the studio and recorded the sound of the engine screaming into the red zone for the solo number 2 on the Eddie Van Halen Mount Rockmore Axeman ship. Goes to Panama.
Running a little bit hot tonight. I can barely see the road from the heat coming on. Reach down between my legs, ease the seat back. She's running, I'm buying, right behind it, real me now. Got the feeling, power steering, busy bobbing, ain't no stopping now.
That solo paid tribute to Chuck Berry, while another Van Halen song saw a tribute to Eddie Van Halen's huge admiration for Eric Clapton. Ed once revealed that he created When It's Love from the band's 1988 album OU812. That solo was a nod to Eric Clapton. While fans fell in love with the track pretty easily, the homage between two legendary guitar players melted their hearts even further with Eddie's reveal. Well, we're halfway through the Mount Rushmore of Eddie Van Halen songs. We got 2 more to go, but first, it's time for an Eddie Van Halen Today You Learned.
Today you learn. Today you learn.
Today you learned that back in 1987, Eddie Van Halen enjoyed one of the more unique duets of his musical career when he teamed up with actor Michael Winslow a.k.a. Larvell Jones, the human sound machine from Police Academy, where Winslow and Eddie Van Halen traded riffs, with Eddie wailing on his axe while Winslow provided impressively realistic guitar-like vocals. It's kind of tough to hear, but this is what it sounded like. Today, you learned that Eddie Van Halen once put a gun to Fred Durst's head and demanded Durst return music gear Eddie Van Halen had left at Durst's house after a failed jam session. The story goes that Durst and Eddie Van Halen were introduced at a party where a record label executive suggested they work together. Durst responded, "That'd be hilarious, the greatest guitar player ever with the worst band ever?" But Van Halen responded with, "Fuck it, let's jam." The session went ahead at a house in Beverly Hills, but Eddie, who was not a fan of weed, left abruptly after people began smoking it, leaving guitars, amps, and other equipment behind. The following day, Eddie was still upset about the experience, and after not hearing back from Durst after 24 hours, Eddie drove an assault vehicle through L.A. into Beverly Hills, parked it, and left it running on the front lawn of the house Limp Bizkit was rehearsing in. He got out wearing no shirt, his hair in a samurai bun on top of his head, his jeans held up with a strand of rope, and combat boots held together by duct tape. And he even had a gun in his hand. Eddie said, "That asshole answered the door. I put my gun to that stupid fucking red hat of his, and I said, 'Where's my shit, motherfucker?'" Eddie Van Halen stood on the front lawn of a residential home in Beverly Hills in broad daylight, smoking a cigarette while holding a gun on Fred Durst as he went back and forth from the house to the assault vehicle, lugging amps and guitars. That's some badass Eddie Van Halen. Today, you learned that Dimebag Darrell, former lead guitarist of Pantera, asked Eddie Van Halen if he could have a copy of the Bumblebee guitar that appears on the back cover of Van Halen 2. Eddie said yes, but never got around to making one for him. After hearing the news of Dimebag Darrell's death, Eddie had the original Bumblebee guitar buried with Darrell. Today, you learnt in Frasier, many of the callers to Frasier's show were celebrities who phoned their lines into the studio without having to appear in person. Celebrities who called include Christopher Reeve, Jay Leno, Matthew Broderick, Macaulay Culkin, Kevin Bacon, and yes, Eddie Van Halen. And that's Today You Learned. Today you learned. Today you learned. It's one of the most deservedly legendary guitar solos in pop history, and you'll recognize it whether or not you know the difference between David Lee Roth and Sammy Hagar. But Eddie Van Halen took less than an hour to record the electrifying solo on Michael Jackson's Beat It, and he was never even paid for it. According to a 2012 CNN interview, he did it purely as a favor to producer Quincy Jones, thinking that the song, which would spend weeks atop the Billboard charts, would barely be heard.
Honest God truth, the band's policy was, we don't do things outside of the band at the time. And everybody's out of town, so I had no one to ask. And I swear to God, I figured, who's going to know if I play on this Black Kids record?
Some accounts claim that Edward was compensated with a case of beer. A cold pack of suds for this solo? Number 3 in the Edward Van Halen Axeman ship Mount Rockmore is Beat It.
They told him, don't you ever go
yes, Ed did rearrange Beat It without Michael Jackson's permission. Nearly as impressive as the solo itself is the fact that Van Halen rearranged and improved Beat It in a matter of minutes while Michael Jackson was out of the room.
The funniest thing of all was I actually rearranged the song. The section they wanted me to solo over, it was just, there's no chord changes underneath it. So I had him rearrange the song, and then Michael came in and I said, "Oh, I hope you don't mind, I changed your song." And he listens and he goes, "No, I really like that high-fast stuff you do."
Eddie Van Halen subsequently heard Beat It in a record store and heard someone in front of him say, "Listen to this guy trying to sound like Eddie Van Halen." Eddie tapped him on the shoulder and said, "That is me." But guitar gods, even like Eddie Van Halen, the one that the accepted measuring stick that all axe slingers are measured up to, even they have songs that didn't quite make the Mount Rockmore cut. Out in the "I can't listen to anything" off of Van Halen 3 plains lie the scorched remains of Without You. And while the solo was outstanding, you would still have to trudge through the "what the fuck am I listening to" moments from Thomas Dolby's Eastern Bloc. 5 minutes of shit surrounding Edward's solo. And I advise you to turn away from the maggots devouring the rotting corpse of Ed's solos from any live version of Sammy Hagar's hit, "There's Only One Way to Rock," drying out in the "Leave Them Wanting More" gulch. Back to the mountainside. Ed's calling card is up next on the Eddie Van Halen Axemanship Mount Rushmore.
This is a clearly not metrosexual moment in history.
Death row romantics. Death row inmates who, just because they're scheduled to die, haven't given up on chasing the babes. The Associated Press reported that at least 30 Texas death row inmates have their own files on internet dating sites. These hardcore men thought to themselves, "Who cares if I killed a couple of old ladies? I've still got loving to give, at least for 3 more months." These guys know the right woman is out there who can see past their faults, such as snoring, biting their fingernails, and a tendency to run over friends with their car. Is any man flawless? Hell no. Real men embrace their flaws rather than tanning or getting dental surgery or plastic surgery or hair treatments. Who cares if I only have one ear? Let's discuss this further back at my place. According to the report, one convicted killer said on his dating page, quote, "I can be a big kid at heart, and I'm a hopeless romantic." We salute this true man, because trying to get a little action while you're behind bars with 2 weeks left to live and a tattoo of a bloody skull on your forehead is the definition of hopeless romantic. This has been Lee Camp. For more funny crap, check out leecamp.net and sharkbaby.com.
Breaking down the best 4 songs. This is Mount Rockmore.
Your voice is like a combination of Fergie and Jesus.
We're down to our last track on the Mount Rushmore of guitar legend Eddie Van Halen. But before we go on, we ask a favor of you. Check out our new home at realguyradio.com. Leave your email information subscribing to the new Real Guy Radio newsletter. Become a Patreon so we can keep churning out Mount Rockmores for you. And hit up our shop, complete with Mount Rockmore t-shirts, sweatshirts, and other gear. Now, Edward Van Halen was the kind of outsized musician that the term guitar god was invented to describe. Lightning speed solos, seemingly effortless tapping. Ed simply redefined the sound of the electric guitar and helped shape the course of anything played through a Marshall stack. Eddie also redefined guitar playing so much that he's the owner of 3 U.S. patents. Number 4656917 in 1985 is what he called a musical instrument support, a device that allowed him to free up both hands for tapping the strings. The rocker's submission included a black and white diagram, apparently, of Eddie, complete with his shaggy hair and intense playing face, as well as numbers and arrows pointing to various parts of the device. Twitter user Timothy Burke wrote after the news of Eddie's death, "More eloquent than me will discuss his musical achievements, so I'll just note that he was owner and inventor of the patent with the baddest ass diagram in the history of the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office." The final spot on the Mount Rockmore of Eddie Van Halen Axemanship only made it onto the band's debut album because producer Ted Templeton happened to walk by when Eddie was practicing his solo spot for a gig on the weekend and suggested that they put it on tape. Eddie duly obliged, recording 2 or 3 takes and keeping the one that seemed to flow. Both of my daughters know this solo by its opening notes and will not hesitate to shout out "Eruption" when they hear it in the car. I'm a great dad. The final solo on the Eddie Van Halen Axeman ship Mount Rockmore goes to Eruption, going into You Really Got Me, because you can't just have the one.
Don't ever let me be. I only wanna be by your side. Please don't ever let me be. I only wanna be by your side. Girl, you really got me now. You got me so I don't know what I'm doing, yeah. Oh yeah, you really got me now. Got me so I can sleep that night. You really got me. You really got me. You really got me. Girl, you really got me now. You got me so I don't know what I'm doing. Girl, you really got me now. You got me so I can't sleep at night. Girl, you really got me now. You got me so I don't know where I'm going, yeah. Oh yeah, you really got me now. Got me so I can't sleep at night. You really got me. You really got me. You really got me.
Understandably, even 43 years on from when it was recorded, for many it still represents the pinnacle of electric guitar playing. And really, hearing it again with fresh ears, it's hard to argue. But even Ed was critical of the recording, telling Guitar World, "Whenever I hear it, I always think, man, I could have played that better." And man, watching him do that live, I still think it all compares to that recording from Van Halen 1. Hey, Mount Rockmore Rockalites, if you hate my picks, you think you could do better, tweet us at Mount Rockmore, MTROCKMORE, and let me know. I may need you to help me co-host and two-hand finger tap your way into upcoming Rockmores. And if you knew that in 1978 Eddie Van Halen got so pissed at David Lee Roth backstage, he threw a bowl of guacamole at him. But the guac didn't hit DLR. Instead, it hit Steve Perry, and Steve Perry cried. Then just tell your fellow Van Haleners that you just liked, subscribed, and or followed the Mount Rockmore pod. And we'll be here for your 40th high school reunion road trip. I'm Bauer. See ya.